How Marion Works, a podcast series dedicated to informing you of the inner workings in all areas of Marion government and public services. Thank you for listening. Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of How Marion Works. I'm your host, Layla Price-Bodkin, and I'm delighted to be with my dedicated co-host, Lillian Harshaw.
Your one and only.
Yo! Okay, so today we get to feature another standout business in Marion. This season intertwines interviews with business owners along with our government leaders to show how these businesses actually work and how they help Marion stand out. So for Episode 7, we would like to welcome co-founder and CEO of Marion Design Co., Wendy Puffer.
Hello.
Welcome, Wendy.
It's good to be here.
Yay, we're happy to have you here. And Wendy, we go way back. So I know some of the things that, I'm going to be asking you questions, but I'm so happy and thankful that I got to be a part of the process of Marion Design Co. and just kind of how that formulated. But we're going to start with a fun icebreaker question that Lillian is going to ask, and I think I'm ready.
Okay. Hi.
You look adorable, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I just had a Charlie horse. That's why I kind of paused for a minute. I'm like, 54 is crazy. Okay. All right, here we go. In school, in high school, were you considered popular, a nerd, athletic, or artsy?
Well, can I say?
You
I
can
want
blend them in.
to say all of them, but there were different times for probably each one. I would say, the awkward years in middle school. Well, you did say high school,
yeah.
So I guess because of the fact that I was athletic and I was artsy, I would be considered popular also because of that, because I was intertwined, I was with those groups, and I felt like I never had lunch with one particular group all the time. I was always kind of like a butterfly, and so I feel like I was kind of everything.
I could see you flitting around.
Me too.
I'm floating around.
Layla the floater.
I was book smart, so you could call me. I was definitely book smart. I had straight A's and all that good stuff. But in high school,
Yeah. Okay. Miss Wendy.
I would say that I was, the perception of who I was not who I was actually. I was a very average student. I loved being with people. I hung out with a very strong group of women who were very intelligent. So I kind of took advantage of the stereotype of Asians being really math smart, but I was horrible at math. But as long as I was with this group, people thought I was really smart in math. My teachers knew the difference.
Right.
that's great.
That is hilarious.
Did they teach you a few things about math that you didn't know before?
No.
Have you gotten better?
No. I didn't ask questions. I didn't really care about knowing about math.
That's
Later on, I
hilarious.
regretted that, but I should have asked more questions of them.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, for me, I was a nerd.
Really?
Huge.
Well, when you
nerd.
started talking about you loving Star Trek, I was like,
Yeah, but it was beyond just like sci-fi stuff. I was just like a big, huge bookworm.
But I
nerd.
can't see that until I start to learn more about you and what you're interested in.
Because my kids, they was like, well, no, you was probably popular. I'm like, no, I was a nerd. And the only reason why I was popular, if you want to put me in that category, is because, I don't know if y'all remember this or not, when Eddie Murphy's comedy show Delirious came out, he had a whole running gag about his mom, whose name was Lillian.
Oh, really?
So that was the only reason that I got popular, if you will, because one of his jokes was, Lillian cannot go outside. Lillian can't do this. Lillian can't do that. Then there was rules on on my locker of all the things I couldn't do when they found out my name was Lillian.
Oh, I see.
But overall, I was a huge nerd. I was, teaching. I was a tutor for people for math.
I could have used you.
That's why I'm laughing about that. But, I was a huge nerd. What got me out of my nerddom, I don't know. Well, I guess I'm still am. But a
I
different
feel like
kind
it's
of nerd.
more popular, though, to be a nerd today. than it
Yeah.
was when we were
Yes.
younger.
I
Like when
agree.
you were a nerd as a kid, you were just a nerd.
You was just a
But
nerd.
today it's a bit more cool, I think.
Yeah. And that's what my
Yeah.
daughter said. She was
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
it's okay to be a nerd. I'm like, is it? And she was like, yeah. Because
Yeah.
they still talk about me because I watch my sci-fis and all that. And they're like, Mom,
Yeah.
you're a nerd. I'm like, what? Still?
So they're probably proud that you're a nerd then.
Yeah, they are. And because, I like video games and all that stuff. And yeah. But yeah, nerd.
So, Wendy, I didn't hear you say that you were artsy at all in high school. So, maybe
Yeah, that part didn't shine. I mean, I was an entrepreneur, so I had like a little jewelry business. So yeah, that was creative.
Oh, cool.
But I don't think I labeled myself that way. I just did it. You know
'Cause you
how
liked it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's something that I enjoyed. So I don't think I thought of it as a career or a category or a label at that point. I just kind of did
Yeah.
it.
Oh, that's fun. I made some jewelry too in high school and just kind
Did you?
of sold to the local store at the time. But you had
Nice.
your own business when you were in high school?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
That's I had to make money because we weren't we didn't have a lot of money, so I had to
That's
earn my
so
own.
You had to make your own
entertainment.
hustle.
Mhm,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, we would love to learn a lot more about you, Wendy. So we would love for you to just provide a brief background of your life, where you were born and raised, which I know will be very interesting, your brief education and career background.
Sure. I was born in Seoul, Korea in 1960. That was the era when babies were, being adopted quite a bit from Korea. So the front row of an airplane would be filled with these little babies with seatbelts on them, and the stewardesses would be in charge of
Wow.
them from that flight. And so on the other end, the parents didn't have to come to Korea to meet the child or anything like that. So on the other end, you had these parents standing with diaper bags, ready to greet their new child, and the stewardess would just take them off the airplane and hand them off to the parents.
Oh, wow.
So I was the first adopted into a family of 6 kids. 5 of us were adopted. 3 were Korean, 2 were biracial. So I was raised in a very kind of international home, although we were very white raised. So I always lived on that edge of looking different than how people perceived me to be. And so I kind of liked the fact that I straddled that. It was a little bit of a mystery, but it also kind of created the challenge and sense of belonging. All of us, I think, struggle a little bit with that sense of
Yeah.
belonging because, you look a certain way, but you're attracted to another type of person. So I've always kind of sat in the in-between. And because of that, I've kind of spent a lot of time trying to understand the real part of people. And that's kind of the way I've approached, my design business and things I do now. I'm the CEO of Marion Design Co., which, as Layla knows, started in 2016. It felt like 19. And actually, Layla was a big part of those, early years in allowing us to find a free place in downtown. But even when I was teaching at Indian Wesleyan University, I was approaching my educational process, and oftentimes I think it was frustrating for students, in a way that this isn't useful if you can't use it. And so they were always doing real projects, and I was always throwing kind of people into the fire, and I like to be thrown into the fire. So people didn't always appreciate that part of the way that I approach things, but I think a lot of that comes from my background, and my dad was a huge man of faith, and just believed that God could go beyond us and do things beyond what we expected. And my mom was very stable and kept us safe in that environment, so it allowed me to be kind of a free spirit in that way.
Yeah. And your full bio is on your website. I just wanted to make sure that the listeners know that they can find out, more about Wendy and more about all of your staff at Marion Design Co. at mariondesign.co. Is that right?
That's
okay. Okay.
Yes.
Just making sure that was right. But yes, you learned to just put things into action. There was a theme that I don't know if you would call it a theme, but it was really more of a purpose when we were introduced. And it wasn't about design. This was while you were a professor at IWU, but it was about design for social impact. And that was the phrase that that basically I feel launched Marion Design Co. as first, I don't know if you call it a cohort, but Can you talk about that process of how Marion Design Co. was birthed?
Sure, yeah. The whole idea of design for social impact is understanding that, first of all, we are all created as designers. Mm-hmm. We all have the ability to design. Because we've made it a profession, like a visual designer, graphic designer, etc., we tend to kind of label it as I'm a designer and you're not a designer because I get paid for it, sort of thing. But we all make design decisions. Mm-hmm. So, this space is designed so that you and I can look at each other. Just because the couches are in an L shape, we all sit down in a classroom, either on the front row or the back row, for very intentional purposes, for our experience, what we want, whether we want to be noticed or not, or whether we want to be able to hear. So there are a lot of things that cause us to naturally make design decisions that we don't even know we're doing. It's very intuitive. Mm-hmm. And so it's important for us to recognize that as we design, it impacts other people. And when you're in spaces that gather, like a coffee shop or out in a public space, there are things that we can do very intentionally to adjust that social experience so it accomplishes what you want it to accomplish. Like if you want people to have more intimate conversations, you're going to position them or move the chairs in a way that helps them feel more connected. And so part of design for social impact is understanding what placemaking is, and the idea of creating places for people so that they have the experience that you hope that they experience. The major itself was birthed out of the interior design program. So we ran the interior design program for 7 years, which is all about creating interior spaces for people. So with that mindset of understanding that people respond to place and space in very different ways is a way we approach design for social impact. What Design for Social Impact allowed us to do is merge graphic design, art, interior design, all the different ways that we create things into applying those understandings toward helping people solve problems. So
I
you're
feel
right.
and I feel like your very first client was the city of Marion.
It was.
Would you say that?
Yes.
And so we have a brand thanks to you and the collective thoughts of all the community members that you brought together for design thinking, but you couldn't start there. You were in your discovery process of just learning who we were as Marionites and what our stories were. And so we are so happy to have that brand that we can continue to have today. And the website that also happened because of Marion Design Co. And we do projects with you still as a client. We have the Mayor Wall in City Hall, and we were able to work with Marion Design Co. for that project. And then we are also doing a collaboration with Marion Arts Commission on the branding of the Amplify Music Festival. So we're very happy about that and excited for those next steps. So now when you were first launching as Marion Design Co., what were some of the challenges when you began your journey? Who all was involved at that time?
Yeah, it's so fun to reflect on that whole journey because it was a journey. There wasn't really a starting point. But if I were to mark a key starting point, it would have been the moment we met you, Layla.
Oh, cool.
Because
I remember that.
Yes. So just to give a little scenario background is that, I was a professor in art and design at Indiana Wesleyan along with Herb Peterson and Luke Anspach. And we all kind of approached our desire for wanting the campus to be connected to the city as a framework for why we said yes to things. And so at that time, the mayor asked us to create a brand identity for the city. And Marion, at that point, wasn't ready for a new brand identity. There were a lot of steps that had to happen before that occurred. And so one of the things that we insisted on is that in order for us to do this work, we had to be in the middle of the city. So we wanted to be downtown. And at that point, the downtown was 60% vacant, a lot of blighted buildings. And Layla knew this, and so she kind of scouted out what would be the perfect place for us. And the corner of 3rd and Washington, which is where the dispatch center is for the county now, was that vacant space that she found for us. And so she connected us with one of the commissioners. We took a tour of the building, and he said, you can do whatever you want to this space, make it your own. And so from the first day, we put our vinyl on the door to kind of claim this as our space, and started adjusting the space so that we could bring people in to get to know them. We understood that it was key for us to connect with the community and hear their voices in order to tell the story of Marion.
And you definitely made it welcoming and inspiring when anyone would walk into your studio, basically your home at the time. One thing I know about you, Wendy, and that I love about you is that you're very hospitable and you make people feel welcome. And that's what I feel now when I step into the Kennedy Arts Center. So that was something that I remember from the design thinking sessions to just the one-on-one interviews that you would have with the community right there.
And when you walk into the Kennedy Arts Center, there's one key element that shows up right away that is reflective of that first year. With regards to hospitality, you see a long white table that's actually 3 tables connected together that seat 20 people. And one of the key things that we wanted, we actually drew this out in our vision, was a big table where people could sit down and have conversations together. So when we went into that bank the first day, we scoured the whole building to see what furniture was in there. And up in the conference room, surrounded by forest green tile and, really ugly vinyl, was this huge oak table that was 20 feet long. So we literally cut that table in half because we couldn't get it down the stairs and the elevator was too small. Mm-hmm. So we cut it in half, and our students, fortunately no one got hurt, carried that down the stairs, and we put it right in the middle of the bank lobby with 20 chairs around it. And that became our gathering space to invite community members over. And we actually started with a group of men called the Fossils, who are a bunch of old retired men. And they would call themselves old, so I'm not insulting them by saying this.
Right. But they're probably old now. That was back in 2016,
they're even older
17.
now, yeah. They would meet every Tuesday at different places around the city to eat. And so they agreed. They brought us pizza, and we sat down with them, and we asked them to put words on Post-it notes that reflected their thoughts of what Marion was.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so that started all those Post-it notes being covered all over the bank by community members, teachers, pastors, firemen. We even went over to the fire station that was the former fire station that's being rebuilt now, and did a design thinking session with them, getting their feedback. In the middle of it, they had to go on a fire call, and we just waited.
That's cool.
And then they came back, and we just kept going.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah.
That was in the former Station 1?
Yes.
Oh,
it was.
So cool. Mm-hmm. So it's really heartwarming to reflect on all of that as we talk about how your journey has grown and it's molded and shaped into where you are now. And now you are officially a small business in Marion. And so I would love to know what your day-to-day entails now, the range of projects that you do, or products, or your range of clientele.
Yeah. We, in 2021, just around the pandemic, we decided to leave the university and jump into starting a brand new business. And the reason why we chose to do that is because we knew there were other ways beyond what we were doing that we could reach out to people and help our community. And actually, Marion Health was a key client at that time that helped us launch into a business. So now, as we've evolved as a business, we are, it shows up the most as graphic design, interior design, videography, photography. But really what we do is we help people tell their stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we help business leaders figure out how to tell their stories because they all have ideas. You're not an entrepreneur if you don't have ideas. And but sometimes they just can't figure out how to get those off the ground. Mm-hmm. So it looks like working with both nonprofits and businesses. On the nonprofit sector, we're doing a lot of work where, like, they've figured out some ideas of how to help their clients or customers do something that fits along with the mission that they're trying to achieve, but they haven't figured out how to make it effective. And so oftentimes what we're doing is we're stepping in to help solve the problem that they're beginning to think about and take them through that design problem-solving process, which can be very chaotic. Like, it can feel like I have no idea what's happening through a lot of the time. But in the end, the aha moment comes, and that's what we help them do, come to that aha moment so that it lands, and then it can become either a brand identity or a strategy. We help a lot of nonprofits implement their strategy because they have this great strategy on paper, but how do we make this happen? With businesses, we're doing a lot of work, all over the country now, from California all the way to New York City, where we're helping businesses tell their story. And it shows up in either brand identity or strategic planning or placemaking. It just depends on what their needs are.
You can do strategic planning too. So you come to the table, you problem solve, and you have a staff of how many people that you work with?
Well, right now we have a combination of employees and contractors. So we're adapting. We're kind of streamlining a bit more now. So right now we have 4 on the team. Well, 5 on the team who are working regularly with us.
Can you talk about each of them individually and what they can bring, what they do bring to the table, just so we can get a sense of the expertise?
Sure, yeah. Well, myself, I bring the interior design, the placemaking, the strategy into play. I have Willie Smith, who, we call him our Swiss Army knife because he can do anything. But he's our chief design officer, so he leads everything that has to do with brand identity, any graphic design. He's also a videographer and photographer. We just transitioned off Misty, who is now the official director of the Candy Arts Center. So that's, we haven't officially announced that yet, but so she's always worked with Candy Arts Center under the umbrella of Marion Design Co. So it's very exciting now because they're in a position where they've hired her directly to be the director. So she has transitioned off the Marion Design Co. team and now is hosting the gallery. We also have Madison Lohr, who was one of our former interns, and she's a graphic designer with us. And then Josh Blair, who is he does all things website, videography, photography, etc.
Like development of websites,
yes,
or just the design aspect?
Both. Yeah, he does both the design and the coding.
So, if someone was to come to you, a client, what would be the first thing that you would tell them that they need to do first, as far as getting things started?
Well, the first thing we would do is not tell. We would actually listen.
Okay.
So oftentimes, telling assumes that what they feel like is a problem is the actual problem. But many times the problem is much deeper than a website or brand. Like, that's one of the things that, even I learned myself, is that what am I doing that's getting in the way of my own business to tell my own story? And so oftentimes it's just getting to know that person, that leader, and hearing what their passion is and what their fears are. And then we step into, okay, so this is where it might be helpful to take you to the next level. And it might, they might come to us saying, I want a brand identity, but we discover actually there's something else that might be helpful before you even get there. And many times that comes into play by working through what we call a design thinking session. So design thinking is an empathetic, human-centered design process of bringing the client into the process of designing because they're the expert. No one knows their business better than they do. And so it's really important for us to get them involved and bring their team involved and even their stakeholders. So we'll host a design thinking session. Sometimes it's 4 hours, sometimes it's 8 hours, sometimes it's a whole weekend. And it's a way of bringing everyone to the room and running them through a course of, it might be like from 6 to 12 activities to really understand who they're serving and then what they're hoping to accomplish. And by the end of that session, we have enough information to synthesize what the next step is to help solve whatever the outcome is.
How Marion Works is sponsored by the City of Marion. This podcast covers the inner workings of city government to better serve you.
I love that. It's very thoughtful in the time that you take in what I would say is part of the discovery process and into the design process. I'm just going to take a real quick commercial break to invite you guys to subscribe to How Marion Works through your favorite platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and many more popular platforms. We encourage you to follow How Marion Works where you choose to listen, or find all of our episodes at howmarionworks.com. All right. This has been fun, and it's very interesting. Lillian, I know that you haven't had a chance to talk with Wendy at length about her business. So, are you finding that it's quite interesting?
Well, yeah, because I know that a lot of people, when they go to people to help them find their brand, a lot of companies walk in the door like I already have the answer. So that's why I was interested in, like, I like where you approach it. You come in actually like a counselor, almost like a therapist, and you come in there finding out their inner before you can actually show them their outer. So I appreciate that, the way you do it that way.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I think, in many ways for myself, I have even more joy seeing people feel understood than I actually do for the outcome of the design. Because I know the design's going to be beautiful in the end.
Right.
And we kind of pride ourselves in being, a rural studio that does big city design work. But that moment where they feel connected to us and trust us and, that relationship is built, that's so key for them feeling like we understand how to tell their story.
Yeah.
And what they need.
Well, Lillian, do you want to get into our second icebreaker?
I sure do.
Oh, boy.
I didn't know there was a second
Wendy,
one.
I'm noticing, because Rob, our photographer, just left. And if you would like to check out some, snapshots from our recording, you can actually do that on our social media, the City of Marion Local Government social media pages, and so you'll see how pretty these ladies look. What are those socks, Wendy? I'm looking at your socks. I'm seeing some eyes coming out.
Mickey Mouse.
That's what I thought.
I wonder if Rob captured those.
Yes, I actually made a New Year's resolution that I've kept. I've never kept any New Year's, and I quit doing them for a while. But this year, I made a New Year's resolution to only wear crazy socks.
Good for
I
you.
love fun. I love
it's
fun
fun.
ones.
Good for you.
That's awesome.
But that's a fun resolution. It's not nothing crazy.
Have you ever made a fun one? I have.
I don't make any. Because it's. I don't want the pressure on my life.
Yeah, but fun ones are great because I remember I knew it was when I met my husband now, and we resolved to try as many pizzas as possible and do kind of like a review on them. And
Really?
for the whole year we wanted to do that because we love pizza.
Wow.
To try the
That's
ones at
fun.
different restaurants. Yeah.
That's fun. Okay.
I'm curious what your recommendations are.
I'll have to talk to you about that
Yeah.
later because that was a long time ago and honestly I forget. But I have some local ones. Scampi's.
Oh, really?
Scampi's in Anderson is really good.
Oh, okay.
Arts in Anderson.
I have not heard of any of these places.
Yeah,
Okay.
those are good.
All right. So are we ready, ladies?
Okay.
Okay. This is a fun one.
Okay.
You'll be fine.
I trust you.
Okay. Who is a celebrity that you would love to be friends with?
Me?
Yes.
Okay, so I think I gravitate towards wanting to be like when you say hang out with a celebrity, I gravitate towards like Marissa Tomei. I think that she would be really fun to be friends with, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I recently saw her on, I don't know if it's like this AI thing of her, but she looks great and she looks really healthy. And so I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's like she's doing this program for her health. And it just makes you wonder, is that really her?
I always Google when I see those.
Yeah,
and
okay, I'm
make
gonna
sure
have to
if
do
that's really
that.
them because I don't trust it.
She was fresh in my head, so, but I do really like her. And I loved her and my cousin Benny.
Yeah, she was great. Well, she won an Oscar for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You blend.
Miss Wendy.
I struggle with this. There's so many, but I tend to go toward Meryl Streep. Because she, first of all, I love the Devil's Wears Prada.
Yes, can't wait for the second one to come out. Yeah.
Okay.
But I love that she, just becomes an expert in her craft in whatever the role she's playing. So she's adaptable enough that she's willing to try really hard things, and then she just owns it.
Yeah.
I really appreciate just
And
that
it seems like in
focus.
interviews, she just seems so down to earth, like very approachable. I do like her.
Yeah,
That's a good
yeah.
one. Both of y'all had good
Wasn't
ones.
she in the one with Bruce Willis? Death Becomes Her. Wasn't that
Yeah,
her?
that was her.
She was in
I don't
that
think I've
with
seen that.
Goldie Hawn.
That's a good one. That's an old movie, like
Wendy,
maybe like
watch
late
that
80s,
movie.
early 90s. That's
That'll
a good
be
one.
date
It's a
nights,
dark
yeah.
comedy.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's not super dark, but yes, dark. But it's good though. It's really actually doing a Broadway play of that one right now. Did you know that?
Oh, wow.
See, this is where the nerd kicks in.
Yeah.
You are doing a Broadway play.
No,
You
it's
are
in a Broadway.
Oh, I was
play.
like, I thought you were writing a script. You're writing a book.
I'm writing a book, yeah, but no.
So who's your character?
I have three.
Or your actor?
Three people. Okay, one of them is Tiana Taylor. I don't know if y'all familiar with her. She was in One Battle After Another. The reason I want to hang out with her is one, her fashion sense. I love when they interview her because she doesn't feel stuffy. She feels very like fun, goofy,
Yeah.
laid back, but I'm very pretty at the same time. So love to hang out with her. The second one is Janet Jackson because I've always loved her.
Awesome.
Love
Yeah.
Miss Janet. Miss Jackson, if you but yeah. Love Janet just because childhood growing up, Control was like my album to go to. And my third one, believe it or not, is Kelly Clarkson. I just feel like me and her can just hang out and just laugh all day.
Yeah.
So those are my three.
Man, you had some good ones.
Yeah.
I could only think of one, but no, I love
Well,
that.
she had time to think about
you
it.
had time to think.
That's not fair.
Well, you know.
All right, so we have been discussing the business of Marion Design Co. And I don't know, we're curious of some trends that you're seeing that are driving your business decisions. You could talk about that special thing that you are offering now, if that segues well, but maybe some trends that are driving your decisions.
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the things that I think of right away is the impact of AI on the design field. Because, yes, it's, I mean, I use AI. It helps me with my writing. It helps, make sure that it's my spell check. It's
True.
It also helps me with my research. So it does save me time in that sense. But the concern I have about it is that it's flattening everyone's story.
Yes.
Because you can tell when something's written in AI.
Yeah.
And if you're more time constrained than intentional, you're just going to copy and paste that and slap it on.
Yeah.
So right now, I think we're in a really interesting phase of the design world because we have to remind ourselves of the human side of what we bring to the table and make sure the world knows that that's the benefit we bring because they can create something on AI, they can throw a logo together really quick, they can grab Canva and do the job and be done with it, but they don't have the human intuition to understand how people will respond to it.
That's right, yeah.
And if we just take a logo and think of it only as a mark, only as, a visual element, then we're not understanding why companies spend so much money on their brands. You think about Coca-Cola or Apple. Why is that apple? It's just a simple flat apple shape.
With a bite in it.
Yeah, with a bite in it.
Yeah.
Why is that so memorable to us? And that's because humans spent time understanding how people think, how they feel connected, what they want to buy, and how all of that creates success for that company.
And it evokes a feeling when you see it instantly. Yeah.
So what are you doing about that as a business? Have you had discussions yet about it? Because I feel like it's just overtaking everything before we can sit down and have a proactive conversation.
I think the key is continuing to ask questions because when you ask people questions about their mission, their vision, what they're passionate about, they're never going to turn around and say, I'm passionate about my logo. That, and that's all that is. It's just a visual element. But what they're passionate about is the mission behind whatever their business is. And so once you get them talking about what drives the reason why they wake up early in the morning and go to bed late at night because they're trying to finish some brief or something for a project, it's because they are human beings who love people and who want to make a difference in the world. And that's what design has the capacity to do. And so it's important for us as designers to help people understand what what people really want and help them understand the value of their story.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Wendy. And I know that we could have a whole conversation and an episode about our brand alone, and maybe even the story behind your logo as Marion Design Co. But I know that you can find out more about our brand story for the city of Marion, since Marion Design Co. did so much work with the city. I just wanted to direct you to cityofmarion.in.gov/community development and marketing. I know it's a long one, but you can find it under our departments, and you'll find the brand story there. So that way we don't really have to explain it, but there's a lot. There's a lot there, and there's a lot of stories behind our brand for the city of Marion. I know that you have some unique items that are in a retail store. Is that under the umbrella of Marion Design Co.?
It is. We have had a store since we started a business, and it's been curated, mostly by myself because I love stuff. I love beautiful stuff. I love to wear beautiful stuff. I like to carry. I like to give beautiful stuff. So the idea was to create a store that had products that aren't sold anywhere else in Marion, that people could give as gifts or purchase for themselves. And so there's a combination of jewelry and stationery and things like that. But we are in the process of transitioning our store from just being a regular retail space to being something that will turn more into gifting. So right now we're kind of shifting everything. So it's not the greatest time, honestly, to get on there and shop for something because there's very little inventory available at this point because we're in a transition period. But it's something that you can keep your eye out on for in the future.
Yeah. Well, I love how you mentioned that you have special services that you offer, and that you can even make it turnkey for the client, which is great. Like let's say you're wanting to have host a party or a thinking session, and then you can actually develop the name tags for that occasion, and you can come up with the centerpieces or the flowers, and you basically work with local businesses, correct, for the most part, in order to make it turnkey for the client.
Right.
And that's up to the client. You can kind of present that to take all of that workload off of them. So that's another thing that I've noticed that you offer.
Yeah, it's fun because businesses aren't just about the one business thing that they do. Oftentimes they have events or they host webinars or they create hospitality opportunities for people. And each of those become kind of a sub-brand of the company. So we will create, printed materials, whether it be the agenda or the name tags or posters for promotion, all of those things to help celebrate whatever that activity is.
Wendy, is the Slow Dinner under the umbrella of Marion Design Co.?
It is. It's one of my favorite things that we do. So Slow was birthed out of the whole title of a Korean name to slow down. It's spelled SLO. And the whole idea originally was to celebrate chefs in town who might have a restaurant, may not, and they come in and cook a dinner, a high-end dinner that they wouldn't necessarily sell at their restaurant. And so we actually started with Jeff from Obie's, and he created a beautiful meal for us. It was a 3-course meal paired with wine. And that launched a series of those, and we were hosting those about once every month. And so now we're transitioning because we've found that every 3 years it seems like we tend to transition. So right now, because we're not running the whole gallery, we have positioned ourselves in what used to be the kitchen. And so we've set ourselves up as a beautiful studio back there. You're welcome to come visit us. And so we don't have those 6 tables available to seat that many people. We actually have a small table, a long table that seats about 8 to 10 people. And we're in that, we're in the process of thinking about how do we create hospitality in this space in this context. And some of the things that we're thinking about is celebrating our businesses in town by hosting regular supper club events where business owners have a chance to spend time together once a month just over a nice meal. And it would be limited to like 10 people. So it could be an revolving table. But, we're wanting to celebrate and transition since we are not necessarily in the process of revitalizing things in the way we were earlier, but we're more focused on how to celebrate and strengthen the businesses that have started because so many new businesses have started. But we need everyone to feel connected. And so we want to create a space where people can feel connected in that way.
Okay.
I remember you used to regularly go on WBAT's Good Morning Grant County to talk about
was so much
design
fun.
tips, and you would focus on one thing each time that you were on, whether it was being hospitable or whether it was cooking a meal. And I remember, taking away some of those tips that you would give people and just kind of the philosophy behind them. And I don't know if they are still up as podcasts, those WBAT episodes, but it's unfortunate that we no longer have the local station. So, Wendy, I kind of just wanted to give you an opportunity if you had anything else that you wanted to say, whether it be a tip for us design-wise or maybe even a link to go to a website that they might learn more about those kind of tips and tricks for design, because that was a whole plethora of episodes that you got to cover, and I feel like those might be lost in the near future. We won't be able to look back on them.
Yeah, we save those on our blog. So we do have the recordings still posted on our blog. But, you have introduced something that kind of is at the heart of why we keep shifting based off of what our environment looks like. And so we created a webinar called Design Therapy. And it's going to be a series of sessions where we invite business owners or leaders to kind of touch on their design story a bit more and explore what things they're missing. And oftentimes those sessions might look like giving design tips, interior design tips or brands tips. Those will evolve based off of what the needs are. But we're recognizing that as we think about how people are doing a lot of DIY or trying to use AI to accomplish their own things, they're not always going to be in a position where they can hire a professional to do that. And so how do we offer the ability to do better without having to spend a lot of money? And so design therapy is a way of meeting with us on a regular basis, much like therapy, counseling sessions, to hear what the problem is you're wanting to solve and to use professionals to help mirror back what we hear you saying and giving you ways to solve that problem. And so it can show up as an introductory session, and that be the only time we meet with you, and then you contact us based off of what your need is. Or it can be a package of, like, let's say 6 sessions that happen over the course of 6 months or once a week, based off of what your needs are at that time. It can be as frequent or as infrequent as you need it to be. But oftentimes we just feel like we need a partner who we can call and say, okay, I have this problem. I have an employee who I'm really struggling with. I love the work they do. They're passionate about it, but somehow they're being held back. How do I help them, get better at their role or something like that? Because design has more to do with just visual. It's very human, relationship driven. So how can we use design to solve a problem as simple as empowering an employee to do better at their work? And that's just understanding the human nature of people.
That's awesome. So you have, when you mentioned that you have the blog, you did say that was on your website, correct? Okay. And so for anyone to find out more about Marion Design Co., I know that you have the website, but you also have social media, and you can promote anything else that you have for anyone to either contact you if they would like to be a client or if they just want to learn more. How does that process work, and how can they learn more?
Right. So as Layla mentioned, we are at mariondesign.co. There's no M at the end there. And we are on Instagram at Marion Design and LinkedIn, as well as Facebook. So you can contact us through any of those, direct message or just send us a message. Our email that you would contact at would be hello@mariondesign.co. and that will reach our general, and then whoever needs to respond to you will respond. So we would love to connect with you. We're located in the Kennedy Arts Center, so you're welcome to drop in anytime. We're open Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 5. And we would love to just sit and have a cup of coffee with you and just hear how we can help.
Awesome. From projects large and small, I mean, Marion Design Co. can be there to help you, and you're local. So and we really appreciate you being a part of the Marion fabric.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's our pleasure.
Well, thank you for making How Marion Works a part of your day. Find us on Apple, Spotify, and many more platforms. Episodes release every other Monday at 5 a.m., so follow us on your favorite place for podcasts. For Wendy Puffer and Lillian Harshaw, I'm Layla Price-Bodkin, and this has been a standout business edition of How Marion Works.
Thank you for listening to the How Marion Works podcast. We hope you'll join us next time.